Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 29 of the longing. We're going right along. For me, right now, it's pretty late at night, and I'm gonna be just recording this right before I go to bed. I'm gonna do probably about the minimum of the 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna be off. So, without further ado, I think I'll just get right into it. And, oh fuck, we're on Aesop's Fables because that was the last thing we were talking about when James was here. Let's see. Thus spoke Zarathustra 1. We were on The Way of the Creating One. This is 17 Roman numeral, I believe. Wouldst thou go into isolation, my brother? Wouldst thou seek the way unto thyself? Tarry yet a little, and hearken unto me. He who seeketh may easily get lost himself. All isolation is wrong, so say the herd. And long didst thou belong to the herd. The voice of the herd will still echo in thee, and when thou sayest, I have no longer a conscience in common with you, then will it be a plaint and a pain. Lo, that pain itself did the same conscience produce, and the last gleam of that conscience still gloweth on thine affliction. But thou wouldst go the way of thine affliction, which is the way unto thyself? Then show me thine authority and thy strength to do so. Art thou a new strength and a new authority, a first motion, a self-rolling wheel? Canst thou also compel stars to revolve around thee? Alas, there is so much lusting for loftiness. There are so many convulsions of the ambitions. Show me that thou art not a lusting, ambitious one. Alas, there are so many great thoughts that do nothing more than the bellows. They inflate and make emptier than ever. Free dost thou call thyself. Thy ruling thought would I hear of, and not that thou hast escaped from a yoke. Art thou one entitled to escape from a yoke? Many a one hath cast away his final worth when he hath cast away his servitude. Free from what? What doth that matter to Zarathustra? Clearly, however, shall thine eye show unto me. Free for what? Canst thou give unto thyself thy bad and thy good, and set up thy will as a law over thee? Canst thou be a judge for thyself, an avenger of thy law? Terrible is aloneness with the judge and the avenger of one's own law. Thus is a star projected into desert space, and into the icy breath of aloneness. Today sufferest thou still from the multitude, thou individual. Today hast thou still thy courage unabated, and thy hopes. But one day will the solitude weary thee, one day will thy pride yield, and thy courage quail. Thou wilt one day cry, I am alone. One day wilt thou see no longer thy loftiness, and see too closely thy lowliness. Thy sublimity itself will frighten thee as a phantom. Thou wilt one day cry, all is false. There are feelings which seek to slay the lonesome one. If they do not succeed, then must they themselves die. But art thou capable of it, to be a murderer? Hast thou ever known, my brother, the word disdain, and the anguish of thy justice in being just to those that disdain thee? Thou forcest many to think differently about thee. That charge they heavily to thine account. Thou camest nigh unto them, and yet wentest past, for that they never forgive thee. Thou goest beyond them, but the higher thou risest, the smaller doth the eye of envy see thee. Most of all, however, is the flying one hated. How could ye be just unto me, must thou say? I choose your injustice as my allotted portion. Injustice and filth cast they at the lonesome one. But, my brother, if thou wouldst be a star, thou must shine for them none the less on that account. And be on thy guard against the good and just. They would fain crucify those who devise their own virtue. They hate the lonesome one. Be on thy guard, also, against holy simplicity. All is unholy to it that is not simple. Fain, likewise, would it play with the fire of the faggot and the stake, and I think I'm allowed to say that in this context because it's not the... I'm not... Your bad word. No, the police are here, they come kicking me up, no! Yeah, I can say it. And be on thy guard, also, against the assault of thy love. Too readily doth the recluse reach his hand to any one who meeteth him. To many a one mayest thou not give thy hand, but one thy paw, and I wish thy paw also to have claws. But the worst enemy thou canst meet, wilt thou thyself always be? Thou waylayest thyself in caverns and forests. Thou lonesome one, thou goest the way to thyself, and past thyself and thy 7 devils leadeth the way. A heretic wilt thou be to thyself, and a wizard and a soothsayer, and a fool and a doubter, and a reprobate and a villain. Ready must thou be to burn thyself in thine own flame. How couldst thou become new if thou have not first become ashes? Thou lonesome one, thou goest the way of thy creating one. A god wilt thou create for thyself out of the 7 devils. Thou lonesome one, thou goest the way of the loving one. Thou lovest thyself, and on that account despisest thou thyself, as only the loving one despise. To create desireth the loving one, because he despiseth. What knoweth he of love, who hath not been obliged to despise just what he loved? With thy love, go into thine isolation, my brother, and with thy creating, and late only will justice limp after thee. With my tears, go into thine isolation, my brother. I love him who seeketh to create beyond himself, and thus succumbeth. Thus spake Zarathustra. I kind of, near the beginning of this chapter, I started thinking about the whole Kenny speech in Attack on Titan, at the monologue where he says everyone's a slave to something, and I sort of like the processing part of my brain was sort of thinking about that more than the rest, and so yeah, that's what's going on in my head. 17, or is it no, 18? 18. Old and young women. I'm worried about this chapter. Why stealest thou along so furtively in the twilight, Zarathustra? And what hidest thou so carefully under thy mantle? Is it a treasure that hath been given thee, or a child that hath been born thee? Or goest thou thyself on a thief's errand, thou friend of the evil? Verily, my brother, said Zarathustra, it is a treasure that hath been given me. It is a little truth which I carry. But it is naughty like a young child, and if I hold not its mouth, it screameth too loudly. As I went on my way alone today, at the hour when the sun declineth, there met me an old woman, and she spake thus unto my soul. Much hath Zarathustra spoken also to us women, but never spake he unto us concerning women. And I answered her, Concerning women one should only talk unto men. Take also unto me of women, said she. I am old enough to forget it presently. And I obliged the woman, and spake thus unto her. Everything in woman is a riddle, and everything in woman hath one solution. It is called pregnancy. I think I'm... Man is for woman a means. The purpose is always the child. But what is woman for man? 2 different things wanteth the true man, danger and diversion. Therefore wanteth he women, as the most dangerous plaything. Man shall be trained for war, and woman for the recreation of the warrior. All else is folly. 2 sweet fruits, these the warrior liketh not. Therefore liketh he woman, bitter is even the sweetest woman. Better than man doth woman understand children, but man is more childish than woman. In the true man there is a child hidden, it wanteth to play. Up then, ye woman, and discover the child in man. A plaything let woman be, pure and fine like the precious stone, illuminated with the virtues of a world not yet come. Let the beam of a star shine in your love. Let your hope say, May I bear the Superman. In your love let there be valor. With your love shall ye assail him who inspireth you with fear. In your love be your honor. Little doth woman understand otherwise about honor, but let this be your honor, always to love more than ye are loved, and never be the second. Let man fear woman when she loveth, then maketh she every sacrifice, and everything else she regardeth as worthless. Let man fear woman when she hateth, for man in his innermost soul is merely evil. Woman, however, is mean. Boomer! Women bad, drilling fun, boomer. Whom hateth woman most? Thus spake the iron to the lodestone. I hate these most, because thou attractest, but art too weak to draw unto thee. The happiness of man is, I will. The happiness of woman is, he will. Lo, now hath the world become perfect. Thus thinketh every woman when she obeyeth with all her love. Obey must the woman, and find a depth for her surface. Surface is woman's soul, a mobile, stormy film on shallow water. Man's soul, however, is deep. it's I I can't help but giggle. Its current gusheth it's in subterranean caverns. Woman surmiseth its force, but comprehendeth it not. Then answered me the old woman. Many fine things have Zarathustra said, especially for those who are young enough for them. Strange, Zarathustra knoweth little about women, and yet he is right about them. Doth this happen because with women nothing is impossible? And now accept a little truth by way of thanks. I am old enough for it. Swaddle it up and hold its mouth. Otherwise it will scream too loudly, the little truth. Give me, woman, thy little truth, said I, and thus spake the old woman. Thou goest to women? Do not forget thy whip. Thus spake Zarathustra. Wow. What do you say to that? Let me check my timer to make sure I'm on. Yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. What do you say to that? Another time when, like, it feels like everything in this is Zarathustra, and by extension Nietzsche, feels so confident in his knowledge. He doesn't really understand other people, but he just sort of thinks, aha, I know, and I will say this is how things are through my and it's yeah. And I think that's a problem with a lot of people. I see this a lot in all sorts of things. Even when people are trying to be nice about it or something, they'll say stuff like, I don't know, that here is how to be a man or something, and it's like, what the thing you're saying, like, is good advice for a person, but like it doesn't have to be any, you don't have to say any of that shit. It's just like the stuff of like, you can have strength through love, some of that stuff that Zarathustra is saying, that's good advice, but you didn't have to be like, that's what women need to do, it's the only thing they can do, like, you know what I mean? It's just I don't know, but that's, I don't know what to say more than that. I don't want to get too into it. I want to not get too fired up right before bed. That maybe it's too late. Now I'm awake. Whatever. Good enough for one episode. Goodbye. See you next time. Later.